Good evening and welcome to the first annual report on the penny. Thank you for coming. Before we get into the substance of the report, I'd like to provide you with some background. There's probably different levels of knowledge in the audience, and I know that some people are very familiar with what I'm going to say, others may not be, so bear with me. This meeting is organized and presented by the Transportation Penny Advisory Committee of Richland County Council. Council appointed the committee in April 2013 to fulfill its pledge during the fall of 2012 to create a citizens committee charged with monitoring council's use of the additional 1-cent sales tax that Richland County voters approved in the November 2012 referendum. As you know, the purpose of the penny tax is to finance various improvements in Richland County roads, public transit, and bikeways, greenways, and pedestrian walkways during the next 22 years. The Penny Transportation Advisory Committee is composed of 15 members representing or from various governmental jurisdictions in Richland County. The committee is a broadly diverse group of citizen volunteers. Committee members receive no compensation for their services. The committee is accountable to County Council, but it functions semi-independently in an advisory capacity. The committee has no staff, but its work is facilitated by the Richland County Transportation Director and other Richland County staff. The Penny Transportation Advisory Committee meets at 5 p.m. on the third Monday of each month in a conference room on the 4th floor of this building. And obviously these are always public meetings. So all of the meetings are open to the public, and at each meeting there is a public comment period during which any member of the public may make a brief statement. I'd now like to introduce to you the members of the committee. From Arcadia Lakes, serving a 3-year term, Mr. Bobby Williams. From Blythewood, serving a 4-year term, is Mr. Bill Wiseman. From the City of Columbia, serving a 5-year term, is Ms. Virginia Sanders. I don't believe Virginia is here yet. No. From the City of Columbia, serving a 4-year term, is Mr. Trevor Bowers. From the City of Columbia, serving a 3-year term, is Mr. Todd Avant. From Eastover, serving a 4-year term, is Mr. James Faber. From Forest Acres, serving a 4-year term, is Ms. Carol Kosaski. From Irmo, serving a 5-year term, is Mr. Bob Brown, who I don't believe is here. And from Richland County, serving 5-year terms are Ms. Elise Bidwell and Mr. Derek Huggins. And also from Richland County, serving 4-year terms are Mr. J.T. McLawhorn, Ms. Dorothy Sumter, who is here, I think, yes, and myself. And also from Richland County, serving 3-year terms are Ms. Natalie Britt and Ms. Jennifer Bishop. In addition, 2 members of County Council serve as non-voting ex officio members of the committee. They are Councilman Paul Livingston and Councilman Norman Jackson. The Transportation Penny Advisory Committee, which we commonly refer to as TPAC, regards its role as representing the interest of Richland County citizens who use and/or finance various modes of transportation the county provides. These citizens reasonably expect that transportation improvements financed by the penny tax and related bonds will be efficient, effective, and equitable. The TPAC, therefore, acts as an agent and voice for these public expectations and brings diverse perspectives to the TPAC's interactions with County Council, the Transportation Director, and the Columbia Transit Authority. Within its limitations as a volunteer advisory committee, the TPAC carries out its role by selectively reviewing information regarding transportation improvements, reviewing and commenting on plans, seeking clarifications, raising questions, and making suggestions. The TPAC serves as a link between the public interest and county officials responsible for conceiving, organizing, managing, implementing, auditing, and evaluating penny-financed transportation improvements. This evening, you will hear reports on what Richland County and the Columbia Transit Authority has accomplished since November 2012. These reports will be largely retrospective, providing information about events and activities during the past 12 months. Following the presentations by Rob Perry, the Richland County Transportation Director, and Bob Schneider, Executive Director of Central Midlands Transit, there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions. And please hold your questions until both men have made their presentations. Perhaps some of you have specific questions about particular road projects or other projects. And if that's the case, I encourage you to contact Rob Perry or Dr. Schneider at a later date to ask those questions. In other words, there may be some details that interest you but would not be of interest to this entire audience, and we want to keep this discussion within reasonable bounds. During their transportations, they will provide information on how you can contact them, and they will be glad to talk to you about specific projects. So our purpose this evening is to provide an overview of what Richland County and Central Midlands Transit has been doing in the first year of penny tax implementation. I'd like to now call on Rob Perry to make his presentation, and Bob Schneider will follow him. Both have extensive PowerPoint presentations, which will be available on their respective websites. And again, please hold your questions until after both men have spoken. Thank you for your cooperation.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mizell, and thank you to all of you that come this evening on a cold, dark evening to hear this update, but I'm really excited to see the turnout. I recognize a lot of faces, and there are a lot of faces that I do not recognize, so it's always good to hopefully connect with some citizens of Richland County that may not know what has been going on in the past year or what's going to be going forward. With that, I'm going to move into the presentation. It is a PowerPoint presentation, and I'm going to talk about really about four things. What has happened in the past year since the referendum's passed, the projects in the program, because there are projects that are listed individually for this program, what the delivery method is going to be for the program as far as the structure with the county, the state, with consulting firms, and then what is our path forward when we're going to start turning dirt and build something. So with that, I'm going to move right into it. As most of you know, the program, the original study began in 2006. The study was conducted by Parsons Brinkerhoff, and it included mass transit, high, medium, and low priority projects. There was a 39-member citizens group that was included in this study, and the estimated cost for this program was $2 billion over 25 years. It was on the November 2010 referendum, and it narrowly failed. So what happened? They went back to the drawing board, and they revised the study. The medium and low priority projects were removed. The program was condensed to 22 years, or $1.07 billion, whichever occurred first. And it was on the 2012 referendum, and it passed. Once that took place, it was contested by a private citizen, and it went all the way up to the state Supreme Court. And in May of 2013, the Supreme Court upheld the election outcome. 2013, and again, this is mainly chronological. 2013, in April, Richland County Council approved a project ranking criteria, and that project ranking criteria, it really is the basis for how we're going to rank these projects moving forward. It has a lot of important factors in it, like safety. Is the project shovel ready? Is right-of-way necessary to build the project? Is there an opportunity for economic development? Congestion. There's a myriad of criteria that we are to use to rank these projects moving forward. In August 19th, I started my fantastic voyage with Richland County government. I believe this is week 18. And in September, Richland County Council, they passed their small local business enterprise ordinance, which is important because there's an emphasis to push as much of this work as possible to small local businesses to make sure that we can keep a lot of the work in Richland County and grow the small firms in Richland County. October 10th of 2013, that was when the first quarterly revenue came in from the penny sales tax, and that was $12.3 million. You might ask yourself, why did it take so long? Well, the Supreme Court, they upheld the election in May. So on May 1st, Richland County government, the collection started. But the way it works is the collections take place for 3 months. They go through the Department of Revenue for a couple months. Then they go to the Budget Control Board. And in October 10th, we received the first quarterly revenue from May, June, and July of 2013. Also in October, the county issued a $50 million ban, which is $50 million in bonds to help expedite the transportation projects in 2014. Most of you that voted in November of 2012 might remember there were two questions. One question was, do you support the transportation sales tax? The second question was, will you allow the county to bond up to $450 million towards the program? And really what that does is instead of making you wait 22 years to see your project constructed, it allows the county the flexibility to bond to build the projects early. I'm sure that a lot of you have a project that is near and dear to your heart and you don't want to wait 22 years to see it built. You might not be in Richland County in 22 years to see it built. So that was a good thing that it allowed Richland County to bond to build some of these projects in. There's only one other transportation program in the state of South Carolina that's a multi-decade program, and that's Charleston. And Charleston has been underway for around 10 years, and they also are capable of bonding to do their projects and their program earlier, so it's not a pay-as-you-go. November 19th, County Council approved a contract to establish a mitigation bank for the entire program. Right now it's going through a legal review with our legal staff, but this mitigation bank would really be a mitigation solution is the term I like to use for the entire program. Some of the transportation programs in South Carolina have run into a huge brick wall when it comes to building the projects. Florence is a great example. They've built they've designed these projects and they have these plans just ready to go sitting on a table, but if you have impacts to wetlands and streams over a certain amount, you have to get an individual core permit to build these projects. And without enough mitigation banks in place in your region, you just can't build anything. So this is a huge step, and I'm really happy because it would have been unfortunate. Hopefully in 2016, August 2016, I believe, is when that is supposed to have the first credit release available, and that should line up well for some of our major projects that we're going to have to develop from scratch, and it will be wonderful not to have any brick wall in our way. And that's the program history to date. I'm going to talk about really just the County Transportation Improvement Program that talks about the actual projects. If any of you are familiar with the way the SCDOT does it, they have a STIP, and these are what are going to be funded with federal guide shares. I'm trying to cater this or tailor this really towards something that we're all used to seeing in the transportation industry, and also something that's helpful for the citizens to understand the funding for the program, the products in the program, and the schedules. So here's the program funding categories. $300 million roughly goes to Mr. Schneider to my left to continue to make the Comet the greatest. We've got $80 million for bicycle, pedestrian, and Greenway projects. $32.1 million is carved out for administrative expenditures to help administer and manage the program. And then there are $656 million for actual projects, roadway projects outside of bicycle, pedestrian, greenway. So that totals $769 million to go towards projects and administration for the program once you carve out the $300 million. Funding to date, as I stated earlier, the Pac-Man chart, $50 million has been bonded in October, and we received $12.3 million in our first quarter revenue from sales tax collections. Here's the program balance. Accumulated funding was $62,723,000. Expenditures to date for Richland County are $506,000. The Comet, the way our intergovernmental agreement is structured with the Comet, once we get a quarterly revenue, we carve out 2% for administration, and then 29% of the remainder they are eligible to invoice us for, and they invoiced us for $3.465 million. So we have $58,750,000 available right now. Let's get into the categories of the projects. $276 million goes to widenings, $198 million goes to special projects, and I'm going to get into those project lists further. But there's $42 million for intersection improvements. We have an interchange project for $52 million. And then you jump into the program level projects like dirt road paving, resurfacing. After that, you go into the bicycle, pedestrian, greenway projects, which are around $80 million total. Here are the widening projects that are in the list. Most of you that were involved with this program when the lists were going around, there was a huge 8.5 by 11 fold out. It's around 3 pages long. It looked like this. These are all the projects that were handed out to the public when the public outreach was going on, and these are the projects that you'll see in this PowerPoint. So there are 14 widening projects. I'd like to point out the top one, North Main Street. That's a City of Columbia project where 2 of the 5 phases, or partially 2 of the 5, have been constructed. Hardscrabble Road is currently being developed by SCDOT, and right-of-way they're supposed to be underway, as well as Leesburg Road. The rest of them have not been developed in any form or fashion. Special projects. As stated, we've got the Shop Road Extension, $71 million project. Kelly Mill Road, $4.5 million. Riverbank Zoo, $4 million. Innovista, $50 million. Your neighborhood improvement projects, which are rolled up at the bottom, are 8 different neighborhood improvement projects. What's happened is these neighborhoods have developed master plans that were finalized and approved by the county, and so that's where these neighborhood improvement projects come from. And there's also a Commerce Drive project, which is near the Owens Field Airport. Intersection improvements, 15 of them, and I know you can't see that. One thing I do want to point out, this presentation is being taped by our PIO office, and this presentation will be on our website. We're also planning on putting on tax bills to go to every Richland County resident. And for those that don't want to view it online, I'm going to allow them to call me, and I'll send them some of the brochures that are on the back table that give this information. So if there's something that you can't see, because I'm sure you can't see this, I can barely read it from here. I encourage you to either contact me and I can send you this presentation, or you can go to the Transportation Penny website, which is located at Richland Online, and view this. It may take a few days for our Public Information Office to post this online, but it will be there. Program level projects, as discussed. Local road resurfacing, $40 million, and $45 million for dirt road paving. The other 4 are various studies that were included in the program. Enhancements. Now this is where it really gets in depth. The first 30 projects that are all $94,536 there to put in the ADA ramps, the American Disability Act's ramps with the detectable strips on the corners of these intersections, as well as the pedestrian heads, the buttons to push to allow the light to turn red so citizens can cross the street. The bottom 6 have $0 applied to them, and that's really just because they're already rolled up into larger projects like widenings or intersection improvements or new location projects. I've been asked a lot lately, what is a greenway? So what I've done is I've pulled the definition out, as well as some typical pictures of a greenway, since we have around 20 million in greenway projects. The term greenway comes from the green in greenbelt and the way in parkway. You can read the rest, but Greenways include community gardens as well as typical park-style landscaping and trees and shrubs. They also tend to have a contiguous pathway. And we have 20 million in greenways and a number of them identified in the list. And these are the greenways, 15 of them. They range all the way from $7.9 million down to $105,000. Sidewalks. We have 56 sidewalk projects. And I know you can't see it, so I'm not going to stay on the slides very long. Bikeways. 87 bikeway projects identified by the Penny Transportation Program. All right, those are the projects. How do we deliver it when you start out and there's just a transportation director, an army of one? What our plan to go forward, our delivery model is to contract a program development team. That program development team is going to handle 6 big tasks. They're going to handle the public involvement for the entire program. They're going to handle the pre-project planning and the quality assurance of plans. They'll handle right-of-way acquisition. They'll handle procurement. They'll also handle the CE&I for the program. I believe I threw up 5 fingers, but there is a 6. But it's all the big tasks to manage the program, to include financial modeling, everything you could possibly need. What we've decided to do is break out the design. So we're going to have 5 on-call engineering teams that will do the actual design of the projects. The program development teams on the larger scale projects, they'll do up to 30% plan development, which means preliminary plans that will just show where the lanes are going to go, but they won't have cross sections or construction limits. At that point, they will be handed off to the on-call engineering teams to develop. I have city managed projects up there and SCDOT managed projects, but again, that's just to allude to the fact that cities are managing North Main Street and the DOT is managing Hardscrabble Road and Leesburg Road. There's no plan to have any other projects handed off to either one of them at this time. And these are the 6 things I could only remember 5 of. Program development, pre-project planning, the on-call engineering teams. The 5 firms will have a contract for a maximum of 5 years, and the contract will be re-advertised. Again, the firms on the list will do the actual design work for the projects, including the program, and the firms will report directly to the county and not to the program development team, but they will run plans through the program development team for reviews in SCDOT. All right, we're almost done here. I know you're starting to nod off on me. Where do we go forward? The schedule right now, we had proposals come in for the program development team December 4th, and so I've gotten to read 5 huge proposals from 5 program development teams. And the schedule is to select the program development team. Council select that firm January 7th. The on-calls, those proposals came in today. We had 22 proposals that we'll get to read for the on-calls, and the top 5 will be selected. Those would take place February 4th, I believe, is a council meeting where the recommendation for the top 5 would go forth. The second bullet I have on there is to issue a limited notice to proceed. As most of you know in the contracting world, just because you select a consultant doesn't mean that you fire the gun in the air and they get to work. You've still got to negotiate a scope and a contract with them. So what I've been selling all along is that we need to get some work done this summer. And we can get some work done this summer. We can do some dirt road paving, some resurfacing, and we can do some sidewalk projects that don't require property. We can also build some of the projects that are shovel ready, that we have plans ready to go. But to do that, you've got to have somebody in place to package those things up, make a recommendation to council on how they should be packaged, and put them out to bid this summer. So my goal, and to do that, you also have to rank your projects by category, which I already talked about, that this program development team has to do with the county council ranking criteria. So my intent is to request a limited notice to proceed to issue to the program development team. I know this is a lot more technical you want to hear, but that kind of gets a quick start to get them going right away, because this thing's been going on. This was passed in November of 2012, so I'm sure there are people that are ready to see some things get built, as am I. So project going forward from there, the program would be to have the projects ranked per category in the spring of this following year and to provide that to council to approve. The summer of 2014, via that limited notice to proceed, the program development team will package up some projects to go to construction, like dirt road paving, resurfacing, and some enhancements. I've also talked about packaging up the top 5 design build intersections a lot of these programs, what they do is they do the low-hanging fruit that first year, and then there's a lull before they can get to a mega project. We don't want that. We want, when the contractor's starting to work, there to be continuous work for the entire program. And a design build is a very innovative way to get projects to construction quickly. It's the DOTs and some counties have been doing them for a number of years. Charleston did that on Coleman Boulevard for an $80 million project. So my hope is to put the top 5 intersections in a design build contract that could go out this fall. And for those of you who don't understand the difference in design build and design bid build, design bid build, you develop the whole project, you buy the property, and then you put it out to a bidder to build the whole project. In design build, you come up with your concept of what you want and some preliminary plans, and you write a proposal stating this is what your RFP, request proposal, this is what I want you to design, these are your requirements, and you put it out to design build firms, and it's their responsibility to carry it to 100% design. It's their responsibility to acquire the right-of-way. So it gets projects to construction a lot more quickly, but you still get your desired result of building a project to your specifications, and it also controls cost in a lot of cases. And then finally, summer of 2015 is when Hardscrabble Road is scheduled to go to construction with SCDOT. And that's it. That's the program website, and I have my email address up there as well, so please email me if you have any questions. If you don't get your questions asked tonight, I think Hayes said to email me if you have any direct project questions, and I look forward to getting those questions from you. Bring yours up for you. Absolutely. Turn on for you. All right.
All right, everybody. Thank you very much. We are the 29% of a transportation penny presentation here, and ultimately we just call ours the tail of the comet. That is what you've got. It's on our website. We've had a page up since August 1st telling you what we've been involved in, what we've been doing. As a matter of fact, this presentation will be posted tomorrow. We would have had it up today, but the files were too large, so we had to trim it down a bit just to make sure it does fit on our brand new website. Key dates, March 22nd. I was driving down I-26 when my phone rang. I have a Bluetooth, so I wasn't talking and holding the phone, I promise. And legal counsel said, amazing news, we won. That's March 22nd. May 1st, the penny collections begin. On June 30th, all county and city contributions end. That means we have a negative operating deficit of revenue of $455,000 for every month. We don't have the luxury of shutting down, which means starting July 1, we have a revenue stream end of $455,000. And the first disbursement was not received in our office in check form until November 16th. That's a $2.05 million revenue gap between what we would have had normally and what we have currently. But then we got our first check of roughly $3.5 million. And we have about another $1 million of cost between that November 16th date and the end of the year. So what does all that mean? That leaves us approximately $500,000 to the good on January 1st, 2014. Historically, we've been an organization that lives shoestring month to month, barely able to get by, didn't have 2 dimes to rub together to pull in 80 cents of federal dollars, and we've been an organization that has basically just been surviving on what we could for about the last 10 years. Our budget is about $665,000 a month. That involves not just employee wages, that's just not the fuel that it takes to operate a vehicle. That's our grant dollar match. For new equipment, that's our grant dollar match for benches, shelters, etc. So when you take in when the checks come, and basically where we are, we're not truly ahead until May 2014. May is anticipated to be the first month where we're not having to worry about can we have genuine cash flow capability throughout the year. And this is the case that I think every citizen who's ever had a job for the first time understands. Once you start getting the money, everything isn't fixed right away. It takes some time to move ahead, but we were very wise with what we were able to do beginning in November 2012. We were very optimistic from day one. Within roughly 32 days, the board approved a service increase. So on April 24th, 2013, the Comet Board of Directors did 2 major things. Number 1, approved a service increase of 35%. We're not even collecting the penny yet, and the Board of Directors has authorized us to grow services. Those services started May 13th, exactly 364 days, 1 day shy of our drastic service change. Secondarily, we launched our new brand and identity, the Comet. May 13th, we expanded services. We restored midday service on Bluff Road, the Eau Claire and Earlwood neighborhoods, Hollywood, Rose Hill, Colonial Heights. These are areas that had no service in the middle of the day. We added 2 hours of service to all routes because, in essence, we were shut down at 7 p.m. A capital city did not have transit on the street past 7 p.m. We doubled service on Route 15, Forest Drive, serving the Taylor Street corridor all the way out to Columbia Place Mall. We doubled our Broad River segment and added a Bush River Road segment. We expanded our Saturday hours with later service. We doubled the 34 and added number 4 Bluff Road back in. I believe we even put the 3 and the 8 back in. Is that right, Larry? All right, see, I missed one. Weekdays, we jumped from 225 to 305 hours a day. That's a 35% increase in our weekday services. Saturdays, we jumped from 95 to 125 hours. That's a 31.5% increase in our Saturday service. We expanded our DART service area, and with this, our DART hours. We were able to then create the new Gamecock Express, supporting the University of South Carolina's winning Gamecock team. We had our highest ridership for that type of service ever. Every single game we operated at a break-even or for-profit level. Those for-profits go back into the system. Again, we talked about wise financial management. Those profits go back into the system so we can match grants, and we improved our routing on Route 4, Bluff Road, as well as Route 23, Farrow Road, to reach more employers. Jobs. March 25th, which was the Monday after we got the call, we recalled 24 laid-off drivers, mechanics, and supervisors. 15 employees who were breathing, hoping they'd have a job on July 1, got to breathe a little easier. And we added a new planning team, approved and recruited through June and October. 5 brand new Richland residents with new jobs. We've imported 2 individuals with master's degrees to the region, and there's been a new executive director. I was hired directly from Veolia Transportation to come work locally for the Comet. Grants and infrastructure, we have $18 million in what we call old federal dollars. These are dollars that must be spent within a category. For example, we had a $1 million amount left over from a roughly 2006 grant that can only be used on facility construction and upfit, which is a term for our grant, only at new facility items at 3613 Lucius Road. We can't fill a pothole, we can't operate service, we can't buy a bus, we can't buy new technology unless it is directly employed inside of our facility. It's one of the rules that comes when you accept federal dollars. Nothing else, period. So, it can't be used for operations, it's against federal regulations, and it requires a 20% local match. No penny means no match, which means no progress and no jobs for the community. Since then, we've been able to bring in real-time digital signage for riders at our transit center. We have the new website. Again, that's where your tail of the Comet. This is our brand new website. 2 clicks to find routes. Your route is in here. You can save it as a bookmark to your smartphone. We're at catchthecomet.org. Very easy to find. We refurbed the new fleet. I hope everyone here has seen the new buses. Excellent. That's key of why we did it, is to be a system you want to ride, not one you have to ride. We will be developing the services you want to ride, not just the ones that are available. The design occurred in Columbia, the wrapping in the Columbia area. The fabric was developed in the upstate and installed locally. 2 of those new employees are grant funded. None of this could happen without the penny. We've purchased 11 propane-powered small buses for our lower ridership routes. These are the small buses we promised the community. We've been able to enhance it with an alt fuels program, so we're providing a greener and cleaner region. It's also the lease of the propane fuel system. That's over $1 million. The owner of the company we purchased for is a Richland County resident. His business is in the West Columbia, Lexington County area. So this is something that's not just benefiting citizens or riders, but is actually benefiting the business community, and it's keeping our dollars local. We have engineering for our facility. Again, we have that $1 million grant. We're using that to add bus bays. Facility construction for office space, because when we designed the building, the Comet had 5 employees. Now it's a little different. So we have to make room. We have employees working at card tables. So you have to buy furniture. You have to have IT services. All those things require it. This isn't just transit. You have professionals coming in to do work, to plan these great services. We've bought a forklift. We bought a maintenance truck. We now have a whopping total of 2. So, we have done the fundamental things that allow us to respond. If we have fleet issues on the street, if we can't respond to them, we have poor service. AC control system replacement. We added the Google Bing Transit feed. It was a $12,000 purchase for the software item that creates that, but without it, we can never be in Google Transit. We expect to be in Google Transit and Bing Transit by January 2014, which means we should be in every single smartphone in Columbia and the general region, so it's got that opportunity for us. Most of these grants were developed in this backlog of funding from 2007 to 2010. Keep in mind, it did not make it to the ballot in 2008, and it was defeated at the ballot in 2010. So the decisions on these grants are now 5 to 3 years old, and once the old dollars are spent, we can become eligible for the additional grants. The Federal Transit Administration wants us to spend old dollars first, and then we can target new grants. And these are only for the purchase of objects, not revenue hours. That's what the local dollars that the penny provides. It provides the match for the grants and the daily operating revenue hours. So our impact, 15,000 hours of additional transit service, more than 50 jobs in the Midlands, and more than $1.5 million in federal money circulated in the region. And we've had penny money for exactly 30 days today. In the next 6 months, you'll see the return of key Sunday routes. We'll be moving towards simplified routes with much higher frequency, the purchase of bus stops, benches, and shelters. You'll also see the implementation of a rural transportation pilot program. You'll see smarter pass and fare options for customers. We're not raising fares. We're doing smarter passes to match our customers' need. We now have the ability to move into smart card technology. We have the ability to offer different kinds of passes. We're moving toward employer, college, and university pass programs and improved community awareness. You'll also see a new operating contract. The Board of Directors has identified a firm through an RFP process that's in negotiation. Once that negotiation is concluded, they'll make the announcement. And you'll also see improved disadvantaged business and small business participation, especially at the local level, echoing exactly what Rob was speaking of. Meanwhile, what do we continue to work on? We're trying to bring compressed natural gas to the area when we're replacing large vehicles. It's about $1.50 a gallon as opposed to $3.41 for diesel. Massive fuel savings for us, but it's very expensive to bring in the facility, and it's also expensive for the vehicles. Adding Wi-Fi to the entire fleet. Adding universal pass programs for major employers. Adding bus route tracking for smartphones so that when you have your phone out, you'll be able to click a link and say, where's my bus? I'm at this stop, I want to know. Replacing the entire DART fleet. Our ADA fleet for our persons with disabilities is very, very aged, so we're working aggressively to replace that fleet, bring in all these technologies. And all these technologies available will then be deployed with our ADA fleet as well as in the rural communities. We continue to focus on the youth market with college and university programs and marketing. We plan for park and ride and rural services, but we need new buses. We can't run them on wishes and hopes. We have to have rolling stock. We have to have buses, and they have to be large, and they have to be small. It takes a diverse fleet to deliver services to a community that is very diverse. You have rural communities, you have suburban communities, you have metro communities. Whenever you see the Comet, whenever you see our new colors, whenever you see our new logo, that is the penny at work. That's part of why we were strategic and when we deployed it. So you could clearly see a before and you could clearly see an after. Every one of our bus schedules changed in May of 2013, and every one of them changed from the old logo to our new name and logo. That doesn't happen without the penny. Those 15,000 hours of transit service, the extra thousands of trips that are made every night does not happen without the penny. So our emphasis right now is doing the right thing in the right order. So for example, we plan and improve the route first. Then we do the outreach, we reach into the community, we get community feedback, we go into the neighborhoods. It's a fundamental part of what we do. We just don't show up with a plan, have a PowerPoint, say it's unveiling next week. All of our processes are public. Our board votes for all services. We get community involvement. We have a dedicated community outreach position. Then we roll out the signs, the benches, the shelters. We market the service on the corridor, and we recruit the employers and we recruit the businesses. It's what we do. The target is no empty buses. We can roll a lot of services out that really people aren't going to ride right now, and we know it. That's not what we want to do because we heard loud and clear all through 2012 that that's not what the community wants. The system you want to ride is going to be safe, reliable, friendly, clean, comfortable, and cost-effective. Why is number one listed twice at the top and the bottom? Because people always want cost-effective first. You only get cost effective when you have the top 4 achieved. That's why our focus is where it is at. So it's the best vehicles that we can get that gives you the safest ride. We want vehicles that are reliable, services that are reliable so that you can count on that they'll be there, services that you can track, that you'll know, that are friendly, that the information is easy to digest, that you can walk up to a bus stop sign and go, aha, this is easy. That's the emphasis on what we do. So here's a little bit of examples of some before and the after. It's our old website. There's our new website. Former fleet that we're phasing out over time, our newer fleet. That's the interior. If you haven't been on them, they're spectacular. If you haven't been on them, see me after this meeting.
All right.
Old schedules, new schedules, promotional. There's an example of our pass. You see our pass up in the corner? There's our new pass style released in 2014.
Very good. All right. As you can see, the penny is supporting big work, complex work with many moving parts. You will have questions. If you will raise your hand, I will recognize you and you can direct your question to whichever person you like. First question. Going once.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Yes.
I just have an observation. I do use the Comet transportation. I would like to see you have bus stop signs, but you only can see the signs from one direction. Is it any way that you could make that sign so you can see it from all directions?
I know exactly what you're referring to.
SC and G was doing the transportation. You could see that bus stop sign from any direction. And I would just like to see that done if possible.
Right.
Okay. Another question. Yes.
I have a question. In our neighborhood, we have problems with big holes. Our sidewalks sinking in. We had one sidewalk had 6 foot, down in, and the kids walk there from school. And we have problems with drainage. We got about 50 houses out in our neighborhood got to get flood insurance because when they built 277, the water don't have anywhere to go, and it floods out our neighborhood. The big manhole, and we have to call every month to get them cleaned out. And like we in the city, the county, and DOT.
Rob, you want to respond to that?
Not really. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm sorry, first and foremost. I don't want to make light of your situation because I was a former resident maintenance engineer in Charleston, and we dealt with work requests all the time of that nature. This is my 3rd meeting tonight, so if I'm stumbling over my words more than usual, that's why I'm almost spent. But no, one thing that we have experienced as a county and as a state and a nation is just a huge amount of rain this year, and it's more than what we've normally encountered. I'm really surprised we haven't had more bridges wash out in our state like in other states, or more roadway problems with sinkholes. But that doesn't answer your question. I can tell you that County Council has a winter retreat in January, and one of the topics is going to be the drainage requests, because there have been a large number, more than they've realized, due to these large amounts of rain. And they're going to try and identify maybe a better way to address these on a quicker, more timely manner, even though I don't know. It always comes down to the funds available and the workforce available. I can tell you, when I was with the DOT, I felt like I had a fire hydrant hose stuck in my mouth, turned on full speed, and I was trying not to drown because you just didn't have the workforce or the funds to address all the problems in a timely manner. And I don't know if your route is on SCDOT route or county route, but I applaud you to please get with me after this, and we'll talk about it. And if I can get you in contact with the right person, I will. And I'm sorry it took me 10,000 words to answer that with. I could have done it with 100.
But it's not only just a hard rain, just a little light rain.
Yes, ma'am.
And it's by our school, and we got big potholes. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's taking people yards away. some of the backyards are gone, some of the side yards are gone, front yards. And one day they will go outside and not have a yard at all. I be out there fighting every day. I call every day. We get one street fixed, and this is in the county.
Yes, ma'am.
And the next week it's another street. We got one out there today, a car went down in it. And I know they're gonna be getting in contact with you because it messed up the car.
I hope so, and I hope they weren't injured. But please, if I can be of help, I want to. That's why I'm here.
Another question. Yes, sir.
Who's the committee person for out around, say, Clemson Road, Village of Sand Hill?
You mean our committee, the Transportation Penny Advisory Committee? Well, they'll have to identify themselves because I'm not sure I know exactly who that would be.
Appointee by Richland County.
It's one of,
I believe Elise Bidwell. She's from the Northeast.
she was here and she left. She's on the ETV Commission and she had another obligation.
Who's my contact to find out for sure?
Call Elise Bidwell.
I don't have a phone number.
Look it up like the rest of it. I don't know what the number is myself. I do have the number right here. I'm sorry. I've got it in my file in the back. No. I can give it to you after the meeting.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Could you clarify the process for ranking Greenway, Bikeway, for the Greenway projects? What I gathered was the criteria has already been approved, and this spring the committee will apply that criteria to projects. Is that accurate?
That's correct. Yeah, I didn't talk about the Greenways actually have a different criteria, and I'd be happy to read that to you if you like. Existing concept plans or designs for Greenway is a criteria. Percentage of proposed Greenway route with secured right-of-way easements, county-owned parcels, or potential county fee simple parcel acquisitions required for the Greenway. Greenway acquisition, construction, and maintenance costs based on updated route and design information. Connectivity. Obviously, connectivity is one of the most important things when it comes to bicycle pedestrian accommodations. I see Miss Britt nodding her head there. Connectivity. Potential number of local users located directly along each section of the Greenway. Potential number of users not located directly along each section of the Greenway. And potential linkage to blue trails along greenways. I'm just glad I had it.
Yes, sir.
Are we going to bond any of your projects, or is it just the large construction projects?
I think we have the capability for large rolling stock if necessary. However, the majority of our costs are going to be directly tied to operating expenses, and you don't bond for those.
Yes, sir.
For Dr. Schneider, the residents that's in the rural areas of Richland County, Hopkins and Eastover, those that pay the penny, that's participating in the penny tax, how soon will you send buses down there to get those people out?
Okay. For example, we're in.
Time limit?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is there a time span on that?
Yes, what we're starting right now, we'll actually deploy this. We estimate in early February to mid-February a rural transportation pilot program. So the pilot program will occur in the northern part of Richland County. It's designed because there's 3 existing fixed routes in this corridor, and that's approximately the Fairfield Road, the North Main, and the Farrow Road corridor. And these are designed to transport individuals from within that zone as well as to those fixed routes that they'll have access into the metro area. So it's designed to be a pilot program because this is something that's brand new to the community. So before we go launching this in all these different areas, what we want to do is make sure this works and we get the feedback and we learn the good lessons from it from an operating as well as an outreach perspective. Meanwhile, we've already started looking at the corridor between Bluff Road as well as Garner's Ferry and the Atlas Road connection. As you note, there's a lot of projects in here that are affecting those communities, so we want to make sure we have good transportation networks in place. And again, that's where we have to have that network of existing fixed routes to deploy those services. So those are 2 examples of where we hope to deploy that in the southeast portion, the lower Richland County area. Most likely that'll be in fall. Our big challenge again is fleet. So as we start to get the new equipment in, then we'll be able to tackle those exact issues.
Yes, sir.
I don't know what's the criteria for crosswalk signs, you know, for wanting to push a sign, because I've seen crosswalks where there's no pedestrian traffic out there at all, you know. It's a waste of money sometime on doing the crosswalk we got now. Like at Monticello and Atlas Road and Blue Ridge Road, there's no traffic right there. But yet we got crosswalks there and nobody uses things because nobody walks up and down the road. So what's the criteria for that? Make sure we don't waste money on that kind of project.
Well, first and foremost, it depends on the route. If it's a DOT route, then they have a traffic engineering group that governs any type of signage. And signage for transportation-related things, it follows their manual for uniform traffic control devices, which means nothing to you, but it's essentially the Bible for signage for the DOT on everything. It's kind of like requesting a stoplight where there is a stop sign. What the DOT will do is they'll get a request for a crosswalk or upgrading a stop sign to a stoplight, and they'll go do a study, and if it's justified, they'll put it in. And I can tell you that they don't like putting crosswalks in at mid-blocks. They wanted it at some type of a crossing for a road because it creates a safety issue for liability. Again, I can't speak for the ones that are in place because this program hasn't funded putting any in place, but I can promise you that we're going to do a traffic study on every one of our major projects, and we're going to try and do the best decision making as far as what we put in there for signage, for crosswalks, whether it's a stoplight, whether it's a roundabout or turn lanes and intersection, because you do have to use some common sense. One of my biggest gripes are the ADA ramps, the disability ramps. They get put in, but they're ramps to nowhere. So you see this nice intersection and you see a ramp going up and there's just dirt on the back side of it. I understand the why, but it drives me nuts because if you're going to go put that ramp in, it would be nice if there was a sidewalk to take our disabled citizens wherever they need to go. And I know that didn't answer your question, but that's really all I can give you on it.
Yes, sir.
Well, you're on sidewalks. There were sidewalks put in like out on Brickyard Road, Clemson Road. Those sidewalks are not being taken care of, maintained. They're not associated with any your subdivisions. So up there probably are, they've got lawn service are doing it. A lot of subdivisions don't have it. Those sidewalks have got sand that's washed over top of them. You got leaves, you got branches for still a growing up area. You got any criteria before you start putting a bunch of sidewalks in that's not being able to be maintained?
Well, that's another good question, especially the Clemson Road, Hardscrabble Road area, which is my side of town. That Hardscrabble widening, it's going to have sidewalks because there are sections. Connectivity is a big thing, and there are sections where there is a lack of connectivity. With over 2/3 of this transportation program are on DOT network roads. Well, that means those are roads that are maintained by SCDOT, whether it be a secondary road or a SC route, a US route, and we've got an intergovernmental agreement that we're hopefully going to execute in the next few weeks with the DOT, which is a gentleman's agreement to let us upgrade their facilities. But it doesn't have anything in there about maintenance. At the end of the project, those projects go back under the ownership of SCDOT. So you're right, it's frustrating. I manage enhancements for 12 counties in the upstate, and a lot of times some of those were just to really rip out sidewalks and put them back because they had become such a dilapidated state nobody could use them. I can say that there are some neighborhoods that do things with DOT where they do adopt a highway and they actually pick up trash and maintain the right-of-way. I know in James Island I had that in one intersection because the DOT doesn't have a nice push mower to make your median look nice, nor do they care. They're going to run over it with a bush hog or a contractor because that's just not what they're tasked to do. And they're not tasked with the maintenance aspect. They really are lack of funding for maintenance. If you think about the DOTs hasn't had their funding increase since 1987. Can you tell me you can build a road or maintain a sidewalk for what you did in 1987? If you do, I'd really like to hear the how. But these are problems that we definitely have to work out because you're right. At the end of the day, if we build $769 million in projects and 10 years later they're falling apart, then something went wrong. In York County, they're on their third transportation program. They do theirs in 8-year increments. And this third one, the next list of projects and funds they're thinking of acquiring is going to set aside a pot of money for maintenance of what they've already built because they're already starting to see problems of deterioration of some of the projects they've built.
Walk off now. And I mean, what you're saying scares a little daylight out there. We're going to be spending a ton of nothing is set up yet to maintain it.
Maintenance is not a part of this program. It's on DOT to maintain sidewalks on their routes, sir. You're right. You're absolutely right.
Yes, sir.
Doesn't sound good.
Yes.
What, this this disturbs me, and I'm quite sure it disturbs a lot of people in here.
Negative.
When you pave, when the county or the state paves a road, the city comes back a week later and tear it up. Is it something that they can do? Don't they? Is it something in place where they know that the road is getting ready to be paved, if they need to do some type of maintenance before that road is paved, to do the maintenance before that road is paved, and then after the maintenance has been done, tear up a pipe or whatever, then pave it instead of wasting a lot. 2-inch road, they just finished paving 2-inch road. 2 weeks later, the city went right there and busted up the ground, and now that all that money that was spent on 2-inch road, you got lumps in the where you drive. You know, it just seems like is it something that can be done about that before you waste money and pave a road?
You know, that's another good one. It's all about coordination. The DOT, they just started a new system called P2S, because what they would do is they would go rehab an interstate, the pre-construction people, and then the traffic guys would have a project to put raised pavement markers in that happened 6 months before that. Is that common sense? No. One thing that I've tried to do and I'm going to continue to do is, you know, I see there's some the City of Columbia engineer and some of her staff here, and we meet regularly. You know, I meet with them probably once a month I have so far, as well as the DOT, because you're right. If you don't coordinate, then at the end of the day, what was it worth? What was the point? I do want to caution though about the ripping up afterwards. You always also have to ask who did it. The DOT and the county will allow utility companies to come in under encroachment permits and to do work. And what you'll do is you'll have a nice newly resurfaced road, and then a utility might need to come in and put a cross-line pipe in. I know down in Charleston we had it so much that we changed it where if you did 2 cross-line cuts within 1,000 feet, you had to resurface that whole 1,000 feet. And that really caused a lot of stir, but it made them really think, do we really need to cut this road twice? Because you're right, it ruins a brand new roadway, and it drives me nuts too.
I'd like to bring our meeting to a conclusion, but I don't want to cut off if there's a pressing question that needs to be asked. If not, thank you so much for coming, and please communicate with Mr. Perry and Mr. Schneider separately. Thank you.